Hello, I've been in the workshop this evening. We've not been in here for a while, I know, because well, I've been busy, what with work, that sordid business, and the adventure to Kent last month, which was superb, which was a month ago already, and well, other things really. Anyway, I'm messing around with camera mounts tonight. When I did the under wing filming, so I've got the camera bolted under the wing on the tie down, you'll notice on some of the film that it got a bit wobbly. I know the GoPro has auto stabilization, but I think the wobbliness became a bit too much. So I've shortened this wonderful mount I made out of scrap bits of steel, and I've made a couple of washers that go on. They're actually drying at the moment, that's why I'm not waving them around. I've also brazed the bolt, it's just a mild steel bolt, in, so when I do it up I don't need to mess around sort of wobbling around with it and holding two spanners. I'll just use one spanner and do it up. So the plan is to try that tomorrow. The other thing I want to try is changing the position of the camera inside the aeroplane. Now, when we're flying along normally, you will have noticed vicariously as you join me on my adventures, and you're most welcome to, that I film inside the aeroplane with one of these, which actually sort of bolted at the top longeron. It's got a 1-inch longeron that runs across the top of the fuselage, fore and aft obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be a longeron. And I have the GoPro on this, around the longeron. And of course my hand comes up every now and then because I've got the press to transmit red button up there as well, because I don't want it around the floor where there's lots of wires and pulleys and other nonsense. I quite like that arrangement, but it's not perfect, and I quite like to try moving the camera to the right so you have a sort of passenger point of view. I'm going to make a mount to exactly do that. The other reason I want to do this is that when I take the camera away from there and I film out the window, for instance, and I'm using this waterproof cover, pretend it's a camera, obviously the camera's there, I'm talking to it, is that I have to take the screw out of here whilst I'm flying along, take the camera off, then screw it onto this floaty thing that came in the very cheap kit of bits I bought for, yeah, it's probably made in China, pretend GoPro stuff, and then I sort of film as I go. And amazingly, again, the auto stabilization takes care of the worst of the wobble vision amazingly well. So what I want to do is make a mount that moves the camera to the right, so it's in the passenger eye view, and so I can lift out the camera very simply straight out of the mount and then wave it around like an idiot as I try and film exciting or not so exciting things out the window, particularly out the left hand window, your old aerodromes and or whatever I want to film, and then just put the camera back in place, because I'm not convinced that going around sort of flying along holding the control stick between my knees whilst twiddling GoPro bits is particularly sensible. It's probably all right down here because there's about 3 aeroplanes in Cornwall, but you know, trundling around the Heathrow zone and Gatwick zone and other zones, probably not the best thing. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. As I'm sure you can imagine, this isn't going to be an expensive project. There's a couple of diagonal tubes behind the cockpit on the C3 and on the C2. In fact, the C2 is next door. I've just been to measure up in the dark, and I'm basically going to bolt a piece of wood across behind those tubes, and so I'm going to drill it every 1.25 inches. In fact, no, I'm going to drill it every 5/8. I'm going to make a couple of sort of U-bolts that go round those tubes. It'll be more obvious when I make it, so I might as well just get on and make it, and well, we'll see how it goes. It's Mark 1 anyway. There won't be a Mark 2, it'll just be a Mark 1 bodge up, but I'll call it the Mark 1. It sort of makes me feel vaguely better that if it's really awful I might change it, but I won't. It is now morning time, but I haven't been here all night. This is largely done. All the holes are drilled, so it's very adjustable across the aeroplane. I've made this kind of tapered pocket on the front, and that takes the camera. It's got a cardboard shim. You might have noticed when I was screwing it up that I wedged a bit of cardboard in there. That's just to give a bit of clearance, so this is a good fit without being too tight. And that works pretty well. It sort of pushes in. It's pretty tight, and when I want to get it out I need to push on the bottom, and then I can lift it out and do freehand wobble vision to my heart's content. I haven't done any titivation at all. Today is actually quite a good day for flying. It's the only one, according to the Met Office, although I wouldn't believe them for a moment, but the only good day in the next 10 days. So I think we'll just go down to the airfield and fly it and see how it works, and then titivation can take place at night when when it's pouring with rain, which is probably the next week. We'll also try this shortened underwing mount and see if it's a bit less wobbly as well. Anyway, it's a good excuse to go flying. I haven't flown the Aeronca since I came back from Kent, which was 28 days ago or something. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. realised a bit of a schoolboy error. I didn't take a picture of this thing installed. Basically, well, it sat behind me like so. Sort of passenger head would be pretty much where that is, which was the whole point of it. And you can see, I think, the two marks or kind of indents of the diagonal tubes. That arrangement worked very well. These are the bolts I made up, or sort of bolt plates. I was going to make fancy U-bolts, and then actually made these, and they've got a plastic pipe on them. And that worked really well. There were two of them, obviously, that one and that one. And they went on like so, with flat washers. And I just put plain nuts on the back, but next time I'll use nylocks if I sort of put it on for any length of time. That just sort of gets rid of any concern about anything vibrating loose, although it didn't seem to want to. This worked really well. Lifting the camera out, because of the headroom was slightly limited, I had to come out and lean it sideways, which is why in some of the pictures it looks like it's a bit wobbly. Well, it's deliberately wobbly just to come in and out of the slot there. Once it's in quite snug. So that worked really well. Let me know what you think about the sort of slightly offset point of view though. I can move the thing slightly further to the centre. You'll see I've marked a couple more holes here. I'm going to move it further across. It's way too long as well. Get those out of the way. I'm going to cut it off there. I've made a little mark because that bit's just behind my head. It's completely superfluous, and if I throw my head back I'll bump it. So yeah, cut it off there. And otherwise I thought it worked very well. I certainly like operating with it. When I get in the aeroplane, normally I sort of head through head first. It's not very graceful. I've never filmed it for the reason it just looks like an idiot getting into a small hole. There's a surprise. And so usually when the idiot gets in the small hole he hits his head on the GoPro. So that was a lot better. Anyway, please comment, and well, I think it was a resounding success. Thanks for watching. See you soon.